Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Whether you're listening during your commute, while working out, or just relaxing at home, we appreciate you. Every download, every listen, and every subscription means a lot. Up next, the 12 Kyle podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy 12 Kyle. Man, check this out. On this episode, what we're going to talk about is dating. More specifically, first date drama. Before I get into the episode, what I want to tell you is I came across this story and it's a wild story. And I'll be honest, I don't even know if this story is even true, but it's filled with drama. It involves a young man. It involves a young lady, and it's just wild. And it happened to happen in the city that I live in Atlanta. So dating in Atlanta is something in and of itself that's totally, it's a whole nother ball game. Fortunately enough for me, I'm an old washed married guy, so I don't have to worry about dating. But this story that I'm going to tell could be a cautionary tale for most of you. Nonetheless, as you can see, we've got family in the building. My homegirl from the I Can Talk About This All Day podcast is in the building. My girl Britt is back. Britt, what's good?
What's happening? Always a pleasure. I think you wanted me for this one because you like my facial expressions when it comes to certain things.
Yeah, that plus, you probably had a date since the last date I had was like in the 90s. So
yeah.
As my single friends tell me, the game has changed.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into it, of course, but I told you, it's been a long time since I've been on a date.
Right.
At least like about 3 years. But yeah. But I can tell you some stuff, and I know some people. So
right. And I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy about not dating or what have you is because like I know people who have stories, and so the stories sometimes are just like horrifying. Like I'll give you an example. Like back in the day, before I had this podcast, the 12 Kyle podcast, back in 2010, from 2010 to 2015, I had an internet radio show called the 12 Radio Show. It was a live show. We took live calls, the whole nine. And one night I decided to do, and this was a 2-hour show, 2 hours straight talk, no commercials, no nothing, right? And I was taking calls, and it's just me by myself. I mean, I would have co-hosts on from time to time, but one night I did a show about dating, and it was just me by myself. And so you get to man the boards and everything like that. So you're taking calls just like a regular radio show. And I put the topic out there, put it on social media, and the phone lines lit up. And like some of my friends, some people that I knew from social media started calling. And a lot of my female friends called in. And Britt, the stories that they were telling me were like my homegirl Tracy. Tracy called in, and Tracy said like on a first date, a guy took her to McDonald's.
Like,
and I mean, like, it's not
like that was like,
yeah, that was, I mean, like, and this wasn't like when she was 17 or 18. This was like grown. Took her to McDonald's.
And that wasn't her favorite place, right? Like, it wasn't like,
no,
like,
I mean,
take you where you like to eat, and it just happened to be McDonald's.
I mean, 28 years old. Are you ever going to McDonald's other than maybe for breakfast? You're definitely not going there with someone else that you're interested in.
Right.
At least I wouldn't think.
Right.
Maybe if I was 28 and I went to McDonald's, it was to take my kids. It wasn't, no dates were happening at McDonald's. But yeah, they shared some horror stories, and I couldn't help but just like crack up. So I guess I know you said that you don't have any wild dating stories or bad, crazy dating stories, but let's start there. So like, if you were to, because I got a homegirl, shout out to Shell, my homegirl Shelly Shell. Shelly Shell she's dead set against somebody taking her to a quote unquote chain restaurant.
Oh my God, one of those like the Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah, Applebee's, Chili's.
Look.
So the running joke is and me and Shell talk and text every day. So the running joke is I always say, hey man, I need it because she lives in Brooklyn. I was like, I need to come to Brooklyn and take you to Applebee's. She's like, we're not going to no Applebee's. She was like, Kyle, I will stab you. We're not going to Applebee's. So is there a place or places that's just like for a first date for you that's like off limits, like you wouldn't even try to go to?
I mean, McDonald's.
I mean, outside McDonald's.
But I mean, like if you're talking about chain restaurants like Applebee's and Cheesecake Factory, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
I don't, because I mean, if you want to take me some high-end place, that's cool. But I'm gonna partly feel that you are trying to do too much on the first one, like really trying to like love bomb me with like the whole, you know. Not saying that that's the case, but I don't mind an Applebee's. Like I'm down to earth, real laid back. If it's Applebee's, if the game is on and you want to watch it, like we want to watch it, we can do that. I'm all for saving some money. You know, they do the 2 for whatever. Like that doesn't bother me.
2 for $20.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me. Cheesecake Factory is cool. I don't know why people hate on Cheesecake Factory.
I like cheesecake.
It's good.
I like cheesecake.
It's good, and I do feel that yes, it might be a chain, but like the environment is nice. Like it's dimly lit. Everything is nice looking inside. It's clean. Like what is the problem? Doesn't bother me at all. So I don't know, but
is it like I remember it specifically in one of those episodes that we had. I had people call in and it was mostly women, and they were saying places that they would like love to go. And it didn't necessarily have to be, you know, like dinner and a movie or anything like that, but because that was my thing, like dinner and a movie, because that's what I grew up on, dinner and a movie.
That's what you did.
But like one of my homegirls, she said the perfect place for her, just her, to go on a first date would be the gun range.
Oh,
what do you think about that?
That's not a bad one.
Okay.
My thing is, you can do dinner and a movie, and that's great. It's fine. Especially dinner, because you get to eat and like talk over dinner. But like a movie, you're not talking. So unless it's something, and you don't have to talk on every single date like the whole entire time. But if it's a first date, kind of want to talk some more. But unless there's like an inside thing where like y'all both really like this actor, y'all are a fan of this franchise, whatever, like, oh, we got to see it. That's different. But just to do a movie, like, no. I'm all for doing the fun, creative stuff. Do a paint and sip. The gun range is cool. Laser tag, like miniature golf, like all that. I want to do the fun stuff. I want to do stuff that make us really like interact and get to know each other. Dinner and a movie is cool, but you score extra points doing all the other stuff. So
Gotcha. Well, you know, I like I said, it was always dinner and a movie for me because
that's,
you know,
back in the day, like we didn't really have.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
But
I mean, if there was
younger,
a
like that's what you got money for. Right. And the car might not get that far, like, you know. So yeah,
exactly. I mean, like, so like I would do dinner and a movie because like that's what my pockets could afford, and then 2, we're talking about the 90s, you know. So I was doing whatever I could, that, you know, because that would be Applebee's and the movies. That was it. That was like my thing. So, you know, and I wasn't, when I was dating, I wasn't really trying to. And it was different. It was a different day and time. I mean, the idea of going to some big, expensive restaurant really wasn't like the thing to do at that particular time. And plus, my pockets couldn't afford it. So let's just keep it a bean. So I know you said that you don't have any horror stories. Do you have any friends or any like first date horror stories or stories that like just really didn't go the way that they probably should have?
So yeah, like you said, for me personally, I really don't, not that all my dates were amazing. I had quite a few mediocre dates back in the day, but I don't have anything that stands out like as a horrible date.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a friend. I haven't talked to her in a while, but she was very heavy in the apps.
Okay. I like the way you phrased that. Heavy in the apps.
Yeah. And she decided to go on a date with this one guy. They went to a steakhouse. Can't remember if it was Outback, but it was a steakhouse. And I mean, okay, let's put it this way. This friend is also, I think she's like 35, 34. She's a few years younger than me. So this is like, that's her dating age range too.
Okay.
Boy actually was eating steak with his bare hands and cutting it like this, right? Like, but was eating it and like kind of pulling it apart too with his bare hands, eating his whole meal with his bare hands, the vegetables, like everything with his bare hands. And I don't know how, I can't remember how they got on this topic or this question, but he asked her, like, he was in disbelief. He didn't know for sure if steak was from cows. Like, they had this whole conversation about, so like, she's sitting there going like, are you that dumb? Like, you're this old and you don't know that steak, aka beef, is from cows. You eat like this on a date at this age. Like, yeah, that's the one that sticks out the most to me from her dating on the apps. I mean, yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy.
How do you react when you are sitting there? And she said she didn't know how to like approach how he was cutting and eating with his hands. Like,
well, at least he used the utensils. I mean, because
like freaking Jason and shit. Like,
right, but he could have just taken it and just tore it up with his hands, I guess, if he wanted to, if he was using his hands for everything else. Right.
But I mean, imagine watching somebody literally like with their steak, just, yeah.
I would go
how
berserk.
Do you address that? Do you say something about that? Do you act like you don't? That's embarrassing.
I mean, it really depends on the vibe. If you've got a good vibe with them, maybe you don't say something in the moment, but you say something later, like once you've gotten home safely and you speak to them over the phone or something like that. But I mean, like, you can't teach home training. You either got it or you don't. So
you can.
Wow, that's crazy.
I don't know what I would do if I was sitting across from somebody that just started.
I mean, you got to say something, but again, I think it just really depends on the vibe. If the vibe is cool and you feel like you can say something, then you say something. If you're not really feeling where the vibe is or whatever, then maybe it's just best saying something later. But I've never had that happen. I've never had that happen. I've told this story before. My day ones will remember this. And I'm not going to tell the whole story because there's an entire podcast about it. It's called Blind Dates. I went on a blind date once in college. And I was at South Carolina State University. One of my homegirls introduced me to one of her friends, and we just she introduced us basically let me back up. Her friend saw me and she was like, "Oh, who is that?" And she was like, "Oh, that's Kyle. He plays football, blah, 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 blah." And so she was like, "Well, give him my number." So, number to the room, not cell phone, because this was 94. So we had no landline. No, this was like 93. It was 93. And so, anyway, so I call her, and before I call her, I called my homegirl. I'm like, "Yo," she was like, "Hey, my homegirl wants to talk to you, whatever." And I was like, "Okay, how she look?" She was like telling me about how she looked. And I asked one of the homies who's in class with her. He was like, "Oh man, her body is banging." That's what he said. That's the first thing that he said. Her body was banging. Uh-huh. That should have been a sign right there. Uh-huh. Right. So we get on the phone, talk to her, And Britt, the conversation's great. She pre-med major. She loves sports. She loved hip hop. I mean, you were right up my hat. And she could sing because she put the phone down at one point and she went down the hallway and she was just singing like Anita Baker or something. And when she came back, I was like, yo, who was that singing? She was like, oh, that's me. I was like, you can sing? And I was like, sing something for me. She sang You Bring Me Joy by Anita Baker. I was like, oh, snap. Now, keep in mind, all I have is just the description of how she looks. So I don't know. And earlier that day, I had seen somebody that I thought was her. It was a girl in a yellow sundress. And she was like, yeah, I saw you today. And I was like, and she said, you were looking at me. And I was like, what? I said, was I? She was like, yeah, I thought you were. She was like, I had on a yellow sundress. And I was like, oh, snap. But then I remembered the girl with the yellow sundress. She was beautiful, right? So we talked on the phone for a couple of days. Long story short, we agreed to meet for brunch in the cafeteria. I got fresh, cleaned up, put on some new Air Jordans and, had my shades on and stuff, ready to go chill and go sit down. I'm in the corner. I'm in the cut, like when my teammates can't see me. And I'm sitting down eating. And I'm like, let's say we're supposed to meet at noon. So I get there like 11:45. I'm there early, to kind of scope it out or whatever. And this girl comes up and she's like, hey, Kyle, nice to meet you. She had on a halter top or a tank top, and she had hair on her chest. She had more hair on her chest than I did. And I'm not like, I don't have a lot of hair on my chest, but still. Britt, and here's the crazy part. The girl that I saw in this yellow sundress wasn't her. And so when she introduced herself, I stood up, I shook her hand, but I was still like kind of dumbfounded because I couldn't believe like what I was seeing. I was like, this ain't the girl. Right. And so I had to play it off for the like next 45 minutes, like not show my disappointment, but I was extreme. I mean, she wasn't a bad looking young lady, but she wasn't who I thought it was. The girl that I saw in the yellow dress was a dime. This one was, she was about a nickel, but and looks ain't everything. But Britt, I was HURT, hurt. And so I get through the lunch or whatever. I run back to my room. I called my homegirl. Like, she was like, how did the day go? I was like, yo, what happened to the girl in the yellow sundress? She was like, what do you mean? And she was like, I was like, that wasn't who I saw. And she was like, she just said that y'all was supposed to be meeting this morning. And Britt, it was just two different girls. And to this day, I've only seen that girl, the girl in the yellow sundress. I've only seen her once in the rest of the years I was at South Carolina State University. I have no idea who she is. Not that it matters anymore because I'm married, but I don't know. There was some mix-up identity. So I was mad at my homegirl for hooking me up with this girl. And I was mad at my homeboy for not telling me she had hair on her chest because all he said was she had a banging body. Mm-hmm. I couldn't get past the hair. So I'm sorry.
What did Smokey say? The bitch got out of the car looking like Freddie Jackson.
Oh, listen, Britt. When I heard that line in Friday, I thought somebody was picking at me. Because that's exactly how it was. I was like, no, this ain't it. This ain't the one. This is not the one. So,
oh my God.
So, like I said, I go into more detail in the episode, but it's an old episode. But that's my only blind date that I've ever been on. Thankfully, I don't have to go on anymore. And if I did, I would never do it again. Never. Like, you got to send me a picture. We got to FaceTime. We got to do something.
Yeah, I've never done the blind date thing, and I never will. I don't care if it's my bestest of friend. Like, I'm not doing it. But I mean, I never did the dating apps either.
Okay.
But back in the day, Black Planet. True story. The reason why I know Baylor is because I went on a date with someone from Black Planet who happened to be one of Baylor's friends. So,
okay,
like, we went on.
I think you told me that, but I didn't know it was from Black
So
Planet.
like, we were cool. We went on dates, but like we were never exclusive. Like it was weird. It was whatever, like hanging out, and we might not see each other or talk for a little while, and and hey, you want to go to dinner, whatever. But like from that, I got my best friend Baylor. So
right. It worked out.
Yeah. But that's the closest I've gotten to anything that's like online, anything. I mean, that I was 19. So we're talking about 2 decades ago, So,
Right.
It's been a while.
I tell you what, folks, if you think that story was wild, sit tight. We're going to take a commercial break, and on the other side of the break, I'm going to tell you an even wilder story than this hair on the chest girl, this chia pet that almost took old 12 Kyle down. Sit tight. We'll be back in just a second. Are you feeling nostalgic for the golden eras of rap and soul music? If so, tune in to the Rap Soul Podcast. We are your weekly journey through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, spotlighting the music and the hidden gems that shaped the soundtrack of our lives. From the powerful beats to the soulful melodies, we bring you the best of the past with fresh insights and stories. Rediscover the music that defined a generation. Subscribe to the Rap Soul Podcast and enjoy the vibes. If you want a podcast where culture, conversation, and life collide, where you get insightful commentary, engaging discussions, and a fresh perspective on everything, then you need to listen to the 12 Kyle podcast. Hosted by the one and only, yours truly, 12 Kyle, a voice that you know and trust. This podcast will bring you thought-provoking moments, compelling stories, and a whole lot of fun. Whether you're a first-time listener or just tuning in, each episode promises to be something new and exciting. So sit back, relax, join 12 Kyle, myself, and my guests as we break down the world around us and give you stories that you've never heard before, from nostalgic throwbacks to everything in between. The 12 Kyle podcast is a front row seat to this conversation. Subscribe now and never miss an episode of the 12 Kyle podcast, where the vibe is always real and the discussion is always worth your time.
At Ritual, we know what goes into the holiday season. The potluck planning, the gift giving, the spreadsheets. So this new year, take a moment for yourself with science-backed support that puts you first. So whether you're focusing on supporting foundational health with a clean vegan multivitamin or supporting your gut health with Symbiotic Plus, do it with 30% off your first month at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
And just like that, we are back. Once again, it's your boy 12 Kyle. This is the 12 Kyle podcast, and I got my homegirl Britt in the building, and we're talking about horrible dating, first date drama. Before the break, I told you guys that I would give you a story. And again, I don't know if this is a true story, and I'm going to read this story because the story came in a series of threads on Threads. And the guy who sent it, this happened to him, and I don't follow the guy. It just ended up, like most things will end up in your timeline. So, Britt, you ready to hear this first date drama?
Got to be better than the hair on the chest. So let's go.
All right. It says, Dating in Atlanta, a horror story, episode 500. So he's already got jokes for himself. Met a girl in the mall that I found really beautiful. Asked her out for dinner. She accepted, and we exchanged information. The next day, we make plans to go out and eat after she gets off work. So when it gets close to the time when it gets close to the time for the date, the first red flag pops up. She asked me, can she bring 2 friends? Even though I knew this was the beginning of the end, I nonchalantly accepted. You following so far, Britt?
Yeah.
For those you can't, if you're not watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. Britt rolled her eyes when I said bring 2 friends. So I invite my manager so that it wasn't weird. She's a female, but gay. We go to pick her up and talk about our past relationships and start to get to know each other as we head to pick up her 2 friends. We get her friends and head to the first spot. Everything is going great, and everyone chats, and the girls are ready to get ready for the club, as we had plans to go, which were changed at the last minute, I'm assuming because of her friends. So they didn't go where they initially planned to go, so they ended up at the club. We hit the first club. I buy us a section, a bottle, and a bunch of drinks. Everyone drinks and dances and has a great time. Next, we decide to head to another club to finish the night. At this point, me and said girl had a conversation, and we really started to kick it off. We danced together. We started having cute little hugs and physical contact, etc. Everybody's pretty lit at this point, and we head out to the next spot, but she asked me if we can make a stop at another club so she can see her cousin. Again, I agreed to head to this location. We arrive at the club, and walking in, I honestly believed the night was going perfectly. This is when things started to go bad. Now, keep in mind that he's had all these red flags, and he's been to about 2 or 3 different clubs. Shawty's cousin meets us at the door and immediately drags us back to the section. Supposedly Tamar Braxton or something like that is having a birthday party. He said something like that. We walk in the section, and the section is packed. Shorty is 5'1" and bad, so all eyes are on us. And on top of that, I don't look like a broke nigga. As she tried to bring us deeper into the section, niggas are not happy to see my ass in their section. So immediately I'm approached by niggas asking me who I'm with and why am I here. Shorty tries to tell them that I'm with her, but they're not having it. I immediately leave the area to prevent ego battles and hurt feelings that would follow if I had stayed. For context, in clubs of Atlanta, rich men have a sport of taking women from other rich men. Game is game, and I'm not confused as long as a woman is smart enough not to fold for this. As the man attempting to pull you out will never, as a man who is trying to pull you will never respect you. And I am the man who got pulled, and I would never disrespect you. So he goes on to say, so I got out to the bar and let her have her fun with her friends, that's in the section, and get free drinks and such with her cousin. I didn't want to be too aggressive or hurt, as it was the first date, and honestly, she owes me nothing and no loyalty at this point. After about 30 minutes, I go in the section to let her know we're about to leave, to go to the other club that we were initially going to go to. She asked me not to leave. She said she would meet me in 10 minutes outside of the section. After 10 minutes go by, she walks out of the section with some other rich guy, the same one who pressed me about being in the section. Her and her friends wave me over and try to get me to join their entourage. But at this point, I'm realizing that these girls are trying to go wherever these guys are headed. I head to the car with my manager and see them getting into the Sprinter with random celebrity. So I get in my car and head home. I see so much content on the internet bashing men, saying we ain't shit and we're not loyal. So I feel the need to share the ridiculous, fucked up things that these women do in the dating pool. I'm not hurt. I don't even care for her true color. I don't even care. Her true colors were shown and I dodged a bullet. But it's like no matter where I meet the girls, they always end up with people like this. The conversation and the interaction in the beginning is always shows what kind of people they are, if they're real. And they have a hurt heart, and it seems like they always end up getting hurt. It's for real dead out here. Love is dead. Relationships are dead. Loyalty is dead. The end. There's a lot to unpack here, Britt.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna say the brother's name. Again, salute to you, brother, young king. Continue to be yourself. but you made several missteps. And I mean, like, there's thousands of comments of people telling him where he went wrong. And I first and foremost, I gotta, give him props for posting this on Threads because it was open transparency. I probably would have kept this to myself or my crew. I don't know if I'd have told the world and a bunch of strangers, only to have it to be read on a podcast. So where did he go wrong, Britt?
First thing, that her inviting her friends. That's the very first thing. Because one, if she's doing it, and he didn't ask her, right? About like
he asked her to a date.
I know, but he didn't ask her like, why do you want your friends to come or nothing? Like, he didn't say nothing about that, right?
No.
Okay. So first of all, if you're inviting your friends on a date, it's not a date. It's not a date.
Right.
It's not. Unless you got somebody for each friend and you doing a whole group date thing, but that wasn't the case. But yeah, like if she was inviting friends because she's not comfortable, then you shouldn't even go on that date. The other thing is, it sounds like it was an opportunity for her and her friends to get some drinks, get a free meal, whatever, get some freebies and whatever else. She sounds like an opportunist. She did not sound like she was interested in a date with said man. That's where it starts.
Yeah, I agree. I think the moment that he said he met her at the mall. Again, I'm the old Mary Wash guy.
But I mean, that's where we used to meet people was.
Yeah, back in 95.
I know.
I mean, but I guess it's authentic because, if you meet somebody at the mall, it's just a random, you know what I'm saying? You mentioned earlier, like the apps. Mm-hmm. You don't have to necessarily hide behind the protocol of the apps and there's no swipe left, swipe right, or whatever the case may be. Or thirst trapping. You just, because the person is right there in front of your face so you can, meet or at least what you would think is the authentic them. But I agree with you. That's the first red flag. Inviting friends to a date, because here's the thing. If you feel like you don't know me well enough for me to go out on a date with you, then we shouldn't go out on a date.
We can talk. If that's the case where you're not comfortable or whatever, we can talk, we can text, whatever, and until you feel comfortable enough. Because I get that. That's, that's what you do on the apps. You swipe, you like, you whatever, and then you start having a conversation. And then eventually you decide whether or not you do a date. It makes sense.
But to go from, okay, so let me ask you this. He said he met her in the mall. He said the next day they were making plans and the next day they went out. Is that too soon or is that?
I mean, I'm not saying it is too soon. It is and it's not. It just depends on the vibe, the conversation you have, whatever. Because I feel that if you have that encounter where you meet the person and you're both feeling it, like there's a vibe there, then go ahead and go the next day. But it shouldn't be a club. It should be, like I was saying earlier, something where you can have a conversation. Even if it's just going to get coffee or going to get tea or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's where he went wrong. And then he kind of evened it out, I guess, or at least he thought he was, by inviting his manager, who was a woman but was gay. So it's him and three women.
Three or so she said two of her friends. So
yeah, okay, yeah. So 4 women. 4 women. So yeah, so him and 4 women. I mean, you're gonna look real odd going into any spot like that. I mean, like the numbers aren't in your favor, and it doesn't. From afar, men are gonna judge you because they're gonna think and well, I'll get to that point. So
I think I know what you're getting at, but yeah.
So they go to the club to get drinks, to dancing, having a good time. The idea of going to multiple places. Now, again, I'm assuming these people are very young because, I don't know about you, Britt, but at my age, it's one spot. And I don't even do clubs anymore. But if I was going to a club, it'd be one spot and then the next spot is home.
Yep. Exactly.
I've never been, I can only think of maybe twice I've been to multiple clubs in a night. And it's only because we got in free. That's the only reason. Because I wasn't about to pay $60 to get in Atlanta Live and then pay another $20 to get in
That's
Django.
only if you can walk to the next club, because
Right.
you got to get in the car and drive and find parking again. Because I know in LA, you talking 15, 20, I'm sure it's more now, but $15, $20 each parking thing. Each time you go into something, you gotta pay.
It's ridiculous here. I mean, like, there's no place. There are very few places where you can go, especially club wise. There aren't any clubs that you can go to in Atlanta where you don't pay for parking. You don't. I mean, like, the only way you get out of paying for parking is you Uber to the club and Uber home. But even then, you're still going to pay. So, there's really no way around it. Okay, so then they go to the club and they go to the section. So he said Tamar Braxton or somebody had a party in the section. Partying with celebrities or partying at the same time or partying in the same venue with celebrities, I don't know how it is for women, but for guys, it's a totally different vibe. Because if you're okay, I'll use my man Bubba Chuck as an example. Allen Iverson. If I'm at a party and Allen Iverson's in the party and I'm single,
yeah, you ain't
they're gonna be checking for him. What'd you say?
I said you ain't getting nobody then.
None. Nobody. Maybe I can get that girl with a hairy chest. Maybe I can get her. But
Freddie Jackson is coming through.
Yeah, I can get Freddie Jackson. But no, I'm not pulling nobody. Because everybody's on Bubba Chuck, and people that can't get to Bubba Chuck are going to try to get to his friends to get to Bubba Chuck. And if it's multiple celebrities, I mean, like, me and my homeboys talk about this, and I always find it to be funny. Like, NBA All-Star Weekend, I mean,
that's a whole
the average Joe, you don't stand a chance. You don't stand a chance.
No,
it's not going to happen. You got a bunch of 6'12" guys walking around the club, and then the VIP section popping bottles. You don't stand a chance. I mean, like, and I remember, it's funny because I forgot to mention this on the recent episode where I talked about clubs here in Atlanta. The one time I was in a club where BMF was in the club, Meech was in the club, and like they bought drinks for everybody in the club. I mean, like, you can't compete with that. I mean, like, somebody just said, hey, I'm going to take $20,000 and I'm going to buy out the bar for the rest of the night. And so everybody's drinking off of him, basically. So no, you don't stand a chance.
If you single or like on the first date or even like the first couple of days, not then. If you go with your old lady, you ain't got nothing to worry about. She going to be like, listen, free drinks. But
exactly.
But other than that, like, no, a new thing, a fresh thing, or like finding somebody there, no.
Okay, so I got to ask you. So the appearance of a guy with 4 women, to the guys in the section, they figure that they probably figure either one or two things. Either he was gay or he wasn't with any of them. And they definitely didn't figure if Shorty was the bad one, they didn't figure that he was with her because in essence, he's walking her into the lion's den. Exactly. What do you think about that?
No, he definitely is walking her into the lion's den. And the second time they went with her cousin, he didn't get into the section first, right? So they didn't see him at all walking in. So what it looks like is here's this weirdo trying to come up into our section and is like lingering around this girl. Like, it looks weird. It does not look like you showed up with her or her friend or that whole entire group. So, yeah, no.
So he wasn't lying about the idea of rich men trying to take someone else's girl. I've heard that before. Like I said, I haven't been in a club here in the city in a minute, so I couldn't tell you exactly what it was or what it wasn't. But I will say this much: it's a competitive thing, but I think you have to be careful trying to step somebody else's girl. I don't care how much money you got, because that can get you shot or stabbed or beat up or all three in the same night. So I guess my next question is, Britt, like, he goes through all of this and he ends up being, rightfully so, somewhat heartbroken. He said he said he didn't care, but obviously he cared because he wrote a 10-page. I mean, like, I'm reading these tweets, and this is like it's a long thread of threads that he posted. But he ended by saying, "It's for real dead out here. Love is dead. Relationships are dead. Loyalty is dead." So let me ask you this: where is he right? Is love really dead, or did he go about it the wrong way?
I think he picked the wrong one. I won't say he went about it the wrong way because she said, "Oh, my friends did it." He picked the wrong one. Now, you're also talking to somebody who has said the dating pool is murky. It's gross. You know, like I said, though, I ain't been on a date in a minute, but I don't think he went about it the wrong way. I think he approached it the way he wanted to, but he didn't know that she wanted friends to come and then they were going to club, because the club hopping wasn't initially what the plan was. It changed once her friends got involved. So it really was, like I said, sounds like she's an opportunist. Like, oh, this guy wants to take me out to, let's all go and let's all da-da-da-da. And my cousin and so-and-so's birthday's here. Let's get this section. She's not interested in him. And then really, when they went to the next club and going in the section without him, he should have just left.
Right.
He should have been like, hey, if they all rode together, like, hey, here's money for an Uber. Peace. Have a good time. Like, because that right there, she's not there for you.
Mm-hmm. She's for the streets.
She is for the streets. That's what I said. He picked the wrong one. I don't think he went about it the wrong way. He picked the wrong one.
Yeah, I will agree 1,000%. I think he went about it. He definitely picked the wrong one. And I mean, and it's funny, as I was reading it when I initially read it, I was kind of in my mind, and I don't pocket watch, but I was just doing the math. I was like,
he's spending some money.
He spent a few dollars. Like he could have, between the spots that they went to, getting a section, getting bottles.
Yeah, he got a section at the first one, right?
Yes, he did. And so, like, he could have easily spent, I'm gonna say ballpark, he probably spent a G in there.
I'm sorry, we're getting a section we're not club hopping, we're not going nowhere else. I just want a section.
Right.
We paid for this shit. We're not going nowhere else.
Yeah, we are getting the section, we're getting bottle service, and we'll be here till the club closes. Till the
club lights come on and everybody looking ugly and nasty. Like, exactly. We will be here till then.
Until we can't do it no more.
Until we can see the hair on people's chests when the lights
Exactly. So before we get out of here, what parting advice would you give the young man? Because we know he's listening to this podcast.
Take the first red flag, or like the moment you feel like, I don't know about this, just don't waste your money, don't waste your time, because that's the other thing. I know he's hurt. Not only did he waste money, he wasted his time. That was a whole waste of time. You didn't get nothing out of that. Like, and in fact, you got what? So he kind of got booted out of the section, right? He got booted out of the. So also humility, like you just.
Yes.
No, she was not for you at all. She wasn't even trying to get to know you. Like the moment you feel, the instant you feel that that person is not feeling you, or just might even have a different agenda, not about you, just let it go. You didn't have no time invested. You didn't, at that point, like, you had a few dollars invested now, but literally 24 hours invested in this person. Like, tell them to kick rocks and go do something else. Go, I don't know, but don't waste your time.
Hey, like in the words of a wise man that I know, and I'll paraphrase here, I ain't here to help you get women. I'm here to help you get better. Too much game. Yeah, I mean, young man, and this is me speaking as an OG, young man, don't play yourself. Don't play yourself. Even though you want to be inclusive as far as like getting from her what her input is as far as this date's going to be, control it. You know, a lot of times,
Lead.
you know, because
lead.
There you go. That's the word I was just about to use. Lead. And most people will allow you to lead. Now, it depends. Some of us don't want to lead, so you pass them the ball, they pass it right back. You know, but be prepared to lead and say, hey, well, we're going to do this, we'll do that. She'll appreciate it. Now, here's the thing, and I'll go back to something that Britt said earlier. If she's an opportunist, she's not going to handle we're going to do this, and that, because that eliminates the opportunities. Because really and truly, if we're being honest, when she said, can I bring 2 friends? No.
Bye.
No.
Because is she expecting you to pay for these 2 friends?
Right.
Is she saying,
because
hey,
at this
I got 2 friends. Do you have 2 friends for my 2 friends? It's not even that situation.
No. It sounds to me like she saw something. She saw that you had a little bit of paper and you appeared to either be willing to spend that paper when you okayed it. Because again, that's 2 more people. So if we do dinner and we go to one club, like I said, and you get a section and again,
even if you go to Cheesecake Factory for 4 people, 5, you got the manager. A meal roughly is about 30 to 40 per person, not including drinks, not including if you get an appetizer,
exactly, tips, parking. You know, like I said, he could have easily, in the city of Atlanta, if he did the clubs that I think he probably went to, he could have, and he didn't. Now, he didn't mention anything about a strip club. If he went to strip club, he definitely would have spent about $2,000 because he'd have tried to throw a few ones. But yeah, young man, take it from an old player. I mean, you have to be smart, and you have to. Maybe he got blinded by how fine she was or whatever like that. But I mean, like, you know, in this city, young man, that you ain't got to go far to find a fine woman. You can go to the grocery store and find one. I mean, like, they're everywhere. So, you know, it's not like you're in, you know, Topeka, Kansas. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna find one. So you don't have to blow your budget. I feel for the brother because, like I said, he spent some dollars, but he sounded dejected. And sometimes those guys can turn into monsters, and we don't want that.
And it's the same thing, not to sound like that person, but it's the same thing when it's flipped with women. That's what turns the women into monsters. Yep. But like you said, if you take control of the date, you lead that, and she's not with it, there you go. That's your answer. Don't do it. Don't do it. You shouldn't be passing her the ball. Like, you set that tone for that interaction and how this is going to go. Like, yeah, you approached her.
Right.
She didn't approach
her, and she ended up telling you what to do.
Right. Stories like that irritate me. Just because, like, for somebody like me, single, would love to be in a relationship because I know I'm a good woman and everything else. But then you got people out here that do this, you know, and you sit there and go like, oh, you know.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not in a rush. I'm definitely waiting for the right one to come and lead the way. But you know, it's the same thing, vice versa. It makes us women in that situation feel like, well, you know, these women who do this, and this, they're the ones that get the dates, and you know.
And the crazy thing is, like, you know, that could have been a good man for her. And, you know, and I'm not saying that, you know, he would have been somebody that she married or whatever like that, but, you know, far too often, I think sometimes we get in situations and we say, oh man, well, there aren't any good men out there, or there aren't any good women out there. And I've seen that being flipped too. And, you know, sometimes we got them right in front of our faces. Maybe the timing wasn't right. Maybe we didn't handle it well. And this is one where she definitely didn't handle it well. And I feel for the brother. It's gonna take some healing, but
yeah, that's not cool.
If he's
says, let me bring my friends, no,
right. And I mean, you know, he fell off the horse, but in typical ATL style, he'll be back on it.
That's
he'll be back on it in about 2 weeks.
I've never lived in Atlanta. I know people in Atlanta. I've heard stories. But that's the other thing. You can't, I don't know. Dating in Atlanta is just not what I've heard. It's
No, it's different. It is truly different, particularly for young black people, because it's one of those places where young black people are in abundance. And it's young black people who have, a lot of them have money, and some of them have a lot of money. And, so when you have it's not, I always hear people say it's not a real, it's real. I mean, relatively speaking, compared to most cities in the United States, it's not. I mean, like, you can compare it to maybe DC, New York, LA, Miami, outside of, but even then, I don't even know if the concentration of black people, young black professionals, is like that in those cities. So it's different. Maybe DC is probably the closest comparison, but even like somebody like, let's just say this young brother's 30 years old. Like, you can have weekends like that, and it probably didn't hurt his pockets, but he can't be that dumb again. He can't have another weekend like that again. And then he'd have to look at himself, like, what am I doing wrong? Like, do I have a sticker on my forehead that says "play me"? That type of thing. So, but yeah, brother, we appreciate you sharing your story, because it became content for us. Before we get out of here, Britt, tell folks where they can find you, where they can check out your podcast.
Okay, podcast. I could talk about this all day on all the streaming platforms, and on Twitter you can find me Britty18. If you have the Instagram already, you in there, but otherwise you got to find it yourself. I don't get that. Do your research.
See, she's single and she's not inviting you to slide in her Instagram
not
DM.
At all. No, not an invitation. No, thank you.
I know that's right. I'm your boy 12 Kyle. 12 Kyle across the board on social media. 12 Kyle podcast, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, not Tinder. But a little bit everywhere. The podcast, you can find the podcast wherever you get your podcast for free. Social media, not social media, on YouTube as well. Download, like, subscribe. Hit us up on Cash App if you want to make a contribution of cash. We'll take that. $ TWELVEKYLE, because I am broke. And if you are into merch, we have 12 Kyle Podcast t-shirts, hoodies, and mugs. We got it for the low. So that's going to do it for us. So for my girl Britt, I am your boy 12 Kyle. We'll catch you guys next time. 5,000. Yeah.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the 12 Kyle podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share this podcast with a friend who needs the 12 Kyle podcast in their life. Every listen, every download, and every share helps us grow. Thanks for being a part of the 12 Kyle podcast community. We appreciate your support. We will catch you next time. 5,000.